The stadium is dark. Then one camera wakes up, then another under the roof. Tracking eyes scan the pitch. At the gate, a ticket becomes a permission signal. In the stands, the crowd becomes movement. Above the roof, the airspace becomes a boundary. This is not a football montage. This is a machine waking up. Modern World Cup stadiums are being built as systems that see, measure, filter, and respond. Some of that is for fairness. Some of it is for safety. Some of it is for comfort. Some of it is for security. But when all of those systems converge in one building, the stadium stops being passive. It does not just host the match, it watches the conditions that make the match possible. Not secret proof, just a machine pattern close enough to make the question uncomfortable. The old version of a stadium was simple: concrete, grass, seats, noise, a place where people arrived, shouted, disappeared, and left behind cups, flags, and a scoreline. But the modern tournament stadium starts long before the whistle. It starts when the ticket is issued. It starts when the perimeter is drawn. It starts when the cameras are tested. It starts when the control room opens its dashboards. It starts when security planners ask a strange question: how do you manage not just a match, but a living crowd, a controlled building, a media event, and a piece of city airspace at the same time? That is the shift. The match is still on the field, but the system begins everywhere else. The field is the easy part, because football fans already accept measurement when it protects the game. At the 2022 World Cup, semi-automated offside technology used tracking cameras mounted under the stadium roof to follow the ball and key body points on players. The connected match ball also carried a sensor that sent data to the video operation room hundreds of times per second. The technology is complex. The bargain is not. The stadium is not just watching where the ball goes, it is calculating when a foot touches it, where a shoulder is, where the defender's line sits, where the attack begins. VAR makes this even more visible. For the 2022 World Cup, FIFA described a centralized video operation room in Doha, receiving host broadcaster feeds from all 8 stadiums through a fiber optic network, with the VAR team accessing dozens of cameras for each match. And for 2026, FIFA said World Cup innovation would include improved referee body camera images, advanced offside support, and optical tracking in all 16 stadiums, producing huge volumes of match data. On its own, this is not the danger. This is the part fans already accept: fairness, speed, proof. But once the stadium learns to measure the pitch in layers, the next question is harder. What else can it measure? The cameras do not stop at the touchline, because the pitch is only one risk zone. The match can be perfectly measured and still fail at the gate. It can be fairly officiated and still become dangerous in a tunnel. It can have clean offside lines while a crowd outside is building pressure against a perimeter. So the stadium's attention expands from the field to the bowl, from the bowl to the concourse, from the concourse to the gates, from the gates to the streets around the venue. The uncomfortable part is that every layer has a good reason. Cameras help operators see congestion. Access systems help prevent overcrowding. Perimeters help separate secure zones from public space. Command rooms help different teams coordinate under pressure. No secret plot is needed for the system to grow. That is what makes it important. The system can expand through normal reasons. The first machine is the gate. A fan does not enter a World Cup stadium as a person first. They enter as a valid ticket, a time window, a bag decision, a gate assignment, a route, an allowed zone. FIFA Stadium Guidance describes outer and inner perimeters, with ticket checks, passes, accreditation, searching, screening, controlled pedestrian and vehicle entry points, and turnstiles used to validate access into the main stadium building. The gate does not just open. It classifies. Ticket holders here, accredited staff there, vehicles through a different point, media somewhere else, hospitality through a separate path, restricted zones behind another layer. For 2026 hospitality, FIFA's official guidance says digital tickets include seat location, dedicated stadium entry gate, and associated hospitality area with QR codes activating before gates open. Again, the purpose is obvious: move people faster, reduce confusion, protect restricted areas, keep the building from swallowing more people than it can safely hold. But filtering is still filtering, and once the stadium filters the crowd becomes data before it becomes noise. From the seat, it is emotion. From the screen, it is density. People become density. Density becomes pressure. Pressure becomes a risk. FIFA Stadium Guidance recommends crowd flow modeling by specialist engineers to test whether entry points, exit points, queuing areas, and circulation space are sufficient for stadium operations. That detail changes the building. The ramp is not just a ramp, it is a release valve. The concourse is not just a place to buy food, it is a circulation artery. The turnstile is not just a barrier, it is a counting point. The exit is not just a door, it is a survival path, and if the crowd stops moving in the wrong place, the match becomes secondary. The system has to notice before the people inside it understand what is happening. That is why modern stadium management does not only ask, can fans get in? It asks, can the crowd keep flowing when the emotional temperature changes? The most important seat may not face the pitch, it may face a wall of screens. At Qatar 2022, the Aspire Command and Control Center monitored images from thousands of cameras across all 8 World Cup stadiums, with technicians and officials using a centralized platform for facility management, security, health and safety, and ICT operations. This is where the stadium stops looking like a building. The stadium becomes a live interface, a set of feeds, a map, a dashboard, a security layer, a facility layer, a crowd layer, a match layer, a climate layer, a communications layer. And in that room, the game is not experienced like fans experience it. It is not one match. It is an operating environment, water running, air conditioning working, gates opening, crowds forming, screens updating, officials coordinating, cameras switching from one venue to another. The control room is where the building becomes readable. And the moment a building becomes readable, it can be managed. The moment it can be managed, it can be optimized. The moment it can be optimized, it can also be controlled. That does not make the control room evil. It makes it central. The stadium does not end at the roof. That used to sound poetic. Now it is operational because the air above a stadium is also a security problem. In 2026, World Cup security planners were preparing for drones as a major threat across stadiums, fan zones, team hotels, training sites, and transit routes, with counter-drone firms and law enforcement building detection networks around tournament sites. A drone ignores the gate. It does not wait in line. It does not pass through a magnetometer. It crosses the boundary from above. That is why the stadium's perimeter has to become three-dimensional. Ground, building, air. FAA restrictions would ban aircraft and drones within 3.5 miles of stadiums and below 3,000 feet on match days in the U.S.-hosted portion of the 2026 tournament. That changes the shape of the stadium. Not a bowl, a bubble, not a roof, a dome of control. The trap is the word surveillance. Use it too loosely and the story becomes fake. Use it too narrowly and you miss the system. A connected ball is not fan surveillance. A referee camera is not crowd surveillance. A VAR room is not a secret spectator database. A ticket scanner is not automatically a biometric dragnet. These things are different. Match data is one category. Safety monitoring is another. Access control is another. Security intelligence is another. Biometric identification, when it exists, is another category again. The danger is not that these systems are identical. The danger is that they can share the same space, the same screens, the same vendors, the same operational logic, and sometimes the same justification: safety, efficiency, fairness, convenience, risk reduction. That is why the language has to stay precise. The claim is not, every fan is being secretly identified. The claim is that the stadium becomes surveillance adjacent in effect. And once a building is wired to see, measure, filter, and respond, the boundary question becomes unavoidable. Who is being measured? For what purpose? For how long? And who gets to decide when safety becomes observation? Fans accept the machine because it arrives as help. Nobody wants dangerous overcrowding. Nobody wants a fake ticket line blocking the gate. Nobody wants a drone over a packed stadium. Nobody wants an offside mistake to decide a World Cup knockout match. Nobody wants the referee guessing when technology can help. So the machine arrives as convenience: a faster scan, a safer entrance, a smoother route, a cleaner replay, a better camera angle, a more controlled perimeter. And most of the time, that bargain feels reasonable. You give the stadium signals, the stadium gives you order, you give it a ticket, it gives you access, you give it patience at the gate, it gives you the feeling that someone is watching the dangerous parts. But that is the bargain worth examining, because convenience is how infrastructure becomes invisible. Once fans stop noticing the machine becomes part of what a stadium is. The World Cup does not need a secret database for the question to matter. The sharper story is boundary creep. A system built to manage tickets can become a system that maps attendance. A system built to prevent crowd crush can become a system that models behavior. A system built to protect airspace can become a system that watches beyond the roof. A camera installed for safety can become part of a larger analytics network. This is where privacy debates around stadium technology matter. Privacy advocates have raised concerns that facial recognition systems in sports venues can normalize biometric identification and expand beyond the original convenience or safety use case. That does not prove every World Cup venue uses the same tools. It does not prove a tournament-wide biometric fan database, and it should not be sold that way. Every layer has a good reason. But together, the layers change the social contract of the stadium. You're still a fan. But inside the system, you're also a ticket status, a movement pattern, a pressure point, a signal. So what does it mean for a stadium to watch back? It does not mean the building has intentions. It does not mean every camera is malicious. It means the old stadium was built to be looked at. The new stadium is built to look. It looks at the ball, it looks at the line, it looks at the gate, it looks at the crowd, it looks at the route, it looks at the control room, it looks at the air above itself, and when enough looking becomes connected, the stadium becomes something different, not just architecture, infrastructure, not just atmosphere, a sensing and control machine. That is what makes it harder to dismiss. Not a single hidden villain, a normal system, doing exactly what it was built to do. And the stadium may only be the visible piece, because a World Cup does not live inside the bowl. It spreads into the city, fan zones, metro lines, hotel corridors, training bases, security perimeters, heat plans, drone zones, traffic routes. The next hidden system is not the stadium, it is the host city. And when the World Cup arrives, the city does not just receive the crowd, it starts managing the crowd before the crowd even knows it has entered the map.